What's up? What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below. As usual, this video is entitled Willie Lynched Gender Roles. I did one called Gender Responsibility a while back, maybe some months ago. This is about the roles. This is what I'm about to get at. There are frustrations between black men and black women about how the roles are perceived. And to me, observing is the roles are backwards. What do I mean by this? Right now, a complaint is, where are the men who are the builders, the protectors, and providers? The bulk of those men were raised to be pretty boys or have swag, or just to be quote unquote mindless bucks. And everybody in the community knows this. Now on the flip side, and the guys that decided not to buy into that programming, those guys for the most part were exiled in a sense. And now those are the guys you want to come back. On the flip side, the women were raised to be builders and protectors and providers. That's why they get this education. See, when you get an education, it's to have the knowledge to build and produce. And under the freedom of education, without building, now they want their femininity when they were raised to take on the role of a builder and a protector and a provider. And now all of a sudden, they're frustrated because they're not looked at as feminine. So that's what I mean by Willie Lynched gender roles. You see, there's a segment of men who are builders, who are protectors, who are providers. But one of the biggest complaints in our community about those men is they're not attractive. Now, the problem with that is this. When we want to compare ourselves to other ethnicities and other communities, there's one thing that happens consistently. Their builders, protectors, and providers aren't the most attractive guys. And their women understand that, even though they might be attracted to other guys, right? So what creates the problem for brothers is we're not looked at and respected as builders, protectors, and providers anymore. But the men that are builders and protectors and providers, we find ways to spin it to that these guys are the enemy. And then when you realize the guys you call the enemy are the people you need for help, you kind of stuck. And the men that you are attracted to that are so pretty are never expected to have the responsibility or to be looked at as responsible for building, protecting, and providing. Just like a pretty woman. Good arm candy, but she ain't really gonna do nothing. Now on the flip side, whatever, you have the situation with the women. You ladies were raised that not to trust men, to get your own, don't depend on men, to be independent of men, and you can buy your own bacon and fry it in the pan. So when you are raised to be a go-getter then you can't be looked at as pretty, as feminine. So now that you're depressed because you took on a patriarchal role, but you didn't want the patriarchal responsibility. You wanted to still hide behind chivalry. Don't work that way. That's the trap that y'all got put in. So while the community is failing on your end, is because you're not women. You're not feminine. You don't balance out masculinity. It's reversed. The men are looked at with feminine qualities as attractiveness and fun and to bring ease, in a sense, to your life. The women were raised to be hunter-gatherers, but it's against their nature. You know what I'm saying? So it becomes a problem. So now it's a struggle, because now you're looking for these men to do all these things for you that you were raised that you were supposed to do for yourself. Simultaneously, when they were raising the boys to be men, the boys were being told, no. You ain't good enough. You're not good enough to help them, or don't help them. They got it on their own. They don't need you. So then you grow up like, okay, they don't need me. Cool. And now these women grow up, oh, I need you. This is what happens when you reverse the gender roles. Then there's this part of the ideology where nobody wants to admit that there are people comfortable in it. See, there's an issue between the men where the men who are the builders and the protectors and the providers not really feeling the guys who aren't. And those guys want those men to teach them how to build and protect and provide. But they don't really want to be taught. And what I mean by that is they have this feminine quality of they want chivalry from the actual builders, protectors, and providers. They want them to do the heavy lifting. They want them to do all of the work. And then they want to show up and stand in front of the picture like it was them. And the guys who have patriarchal mindset ain't having it. Yo, we got to have this meeting. I got to go get a haircut. Okay. We had the meeting. This is what went on. We're going to need this amount from you. Well, you know what? I'll be right back. I got some things I need to take care of. Oh, okay. Since you wasn't involved, we partnered up with these other people. We moved in and we doing this. Well, what about my 2 cents? You had to go get a haircut and you need to be right back. We ain't got time for that. Okay, well, we actually saw the plan through and the grand opening is on Friday. For real? Man, I want to see that. Then when they show up to cut the ribbon, they want to be front and center. Guys ain't feeling that. So that's the issue right there. And the flip side, the women who are actually feminine have been getting thrown under the bus for years, for being dainty, for being feminine, for actually being a lady, for having etiquette and manners. And now these women who've been running around in masculine energy for decades are looking at those women for help, or looking to those women for help to be more ladylike, to be more feminine. But the problem is they can't help those ladies, because the only way they can help them is to yell at them like a drill sergeant, because they can't hear it in a womanly way, in a ladylike way. Because they're so far gone, you got to start at drill sergeant and work your way back to lady. And just like, and the problem with that is, just like the builders can't teach these guys how to be men, these feminine women can't teach these grown women how to be ladies. Because they're not going to listen. Because it goes against Though it goes with your nature, it goes against your grooming to become an adult. And everybody wants to sit and wants to. You have the men who want to sit and swag because it's comfortable because there's no responsibility in that role, and then you have the women who want to sit in masculine independence, but don't want the responsibility of that role. And both were raised to be like this. And when we talk to the guys about, look, man, to turn this around, you have to do this, 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 and this. The guys who are down, they go, well, let's get it done. It's going to be work. The guys who are not, they're going to start having all kinds of excuses and blow-ups. They're going to want to micromanage every little piece of it because real truth is they don't want that role of a patriarch or the responsibility of it. So they want to micromanage it and the sabotage so they could be chill where they at because they're comfortable where they at. Then the women do the very same thing. Ladies try to teach them how to be a man, be with a man, and to be a lady to a man. They want to micromanage that whole situation to other women to sabotage it so they can stay in their comfort of Miss Independent. And one thing I got to say about this education part, what the ladies don't seem to get, other groups of women don't talk about how educated they are because they know it opens the door for them having to fend for themselves. And that's what you ladies seem not to get, y'all. But you get it, but you don't want to admit you get it. You know, and education in America is a little tricky right now. But on the other end of this to me, is this part. People do not want to admit that they don't want it to change. So that's my issue with this whole situation. People don't want it to change, but they don't want to admit that they don't want it to change. But their actions prove it. Because with this Willie Lynch gender roles, you can point the finger at the generation that taught you this backwards behavior. And you can point the finger at the opposite sex for not fulfilling their patriarchal gender role or matriarchal gender role. But you're not pointing the finger at yourself for actually wanting it to stay the same so you could be free and not being responsible for anything. Because once you flip-flop the roles, you're two fish out of water. And you know if nothing good can come from that, so you're just free to roam. And that's what you really want. You want it to be free to roam. Because part of what's going on, just in this sense, is this. Men don't want to be husbands because of the freedom of being single. And women don't want to be wives because of the freedom of being single. Because there's no commitment and responsibility in either one. And minus the issues with the laws. Just on the principle of it. Why do I have to sacrifice for another person? I don't like that about my role, so I'm gonna absolve myself of that responsibility. I'm gonna omit that part is actually in existence. You know, that's my opinion. We out.